The signal went off. You did not just post. You fired a warhead. One message, one truth, and bam. Shockwaves reverberate across the digital battlefield. Phones lit up, feeds flooded, and comment sections exploded like a chain reaction. The air is dense with fear. Their hands shake as they attempt to plan a response. But it is too late. The Star Destroyer is in flames. You did not just enter the arena. You transformed it. They're scurrying, seeing their illusions crumble, and attempting to turn the story in their favor. But deep down, they realize it was never their war to win. The empire they constructed on deception has now taken a devastating strike. You did not even need a fleet. Just the truth. It's just presence. It's just you. And now? Now you are at the helm of a new age. The Force. They dreaded the uncontrollable storm. You did not beg for war, but you did alter the battlefield. Your remarks were never intended to have such a short effect. They were a force of nature. A storm changed the whole terrain of ideas. They didn't just pass through the common imagination. They attacked with the power of a tidal wave, eradicating old ideas and forging new avenues through opposition. Each phrase was intentional, not merely a snippet of speech, but a determined spark of revelation. It was not about earning attention. It was about changing the basic balance of perception. The world changed when they arrived, not because they chose to listen, but because they had no other choice. Passive people do not have power. It is not judged by fleeting successes. It belongs to those who remain unfazed in the midst of chaos. Those who discover balance in situations when others see only disaster do not seek affirmation, because it is engraved into the fundamental fabric of reality. When they act, their impact extends beyond the confines of the scene. A subtle yet inexorable force that alters events before they ever occur. They are not limited to the linear or restricted by convention. They exist beyond a reminder that genuine authority is claimed rather than bestowed. What you put in motion was more than just a series of words. It was a catalyst, a spark that ignited dry ground and converted it into wildfire. The impact was never about magnitude, but rather about disrupting the inertia of people who met it, causing them to wake up. The truth was never softened or reduced to digestible form. It was an unstoppable and savage force in its own right. And by delivering it, you become more than just a voice in the discourse. You became the center around which new knowledge circled. Every action with consequences will encounter opposition, and the echoes of your presence are no exception. Some will come close, seeking the fire that ignites your insight. They are driven by an unknown force. Others will shrink back, unsettled. Their assurance is undermined by what they are unwilling to recognize. This divide is not coincidental. It is the essence of great effect. The brightest flame does not go undetected. It draws stark contrasts, revealing what was before concealed. To seek ease is to seek irrelevance. What you carry isn't comfortable. It is a disturbance. It is a revelation. It is an indisputable force that affects everything it comes into contact with. No weapon made against them will succeed, nor shall any voice rise against them in judgment. You must condemn. This is the inheritance of the Lord's servants. Isaiah 5417. There comes a point when you no longer dread the storm, when lightning does not hit you, but instead ignites your path because you were never intended to shatter. You are intended to ascend. Pressure does not crush those who are designed to withstand it. It does not demolish those whose foundations are built on truth. It carves its forms. It fortifies, like a blacksmith striking molten steel. Adversity bears down on you, but you don't melt. You are reforged, stronger, sharper, unyielding. The fire was sent to devour you. The same fire purified you. The weak, call resistance misfortune. The picked, see it and consider it confirmation. If you lacked authority, there would be no reality in your actions. The world would not come up to confront you with such intensity. Enemies do not congregate in areas where there is no danger. You do not notice wolves circling an empty field. They arrive when they sense strength, when they detect anything genuine. But this is what they don't grasp. You don't move alone. You walk with a power larger than yourself, a fate foretold long before you came. And no amount of pushback will erase what has been put in motion for you. The journey may be difficult, but the struggle is persistent. But you were meant for this. Every difficulty, every voice shouted against you, every impediment thrown in your path, it is all part of the refinement process. There are others who fall beneath the weight of misfortune, allowing the winds to steer them, who hesitate at the first indication of trouble. And then there are those like you, those who remain solid even when the world trembles, those who refuse to be influenced by the fleeting because they are grounded in the everlasting. Strength isn't given, it was earned. It is grown in fire rather than in ease. It is developed in quiet rather than with applause. You don't need validation. You do not need authorization. And you certainly do not need approval from people who are incapable of standing in the midst of reality. What is coming at you is not an indication of your failure. It is an indication of your authority. If you were insignificant, people would not notice you. But they do. And it is the clearest indication that you are precisely where you should be. So, let them push. Allow them to test. Allow them to change the story. Because God's plan cannot be undone by human means. Your base is unshakable. Your commitment is impenetrable. And no matter how intense the conflict, one thing is certain: you will not fall. Envy, fury, fixation, these are not random impulses, but the expected result of shattered illusions. When faced with verifiable consent, the delicate framework of false confidence starts to disintegrate. Bitterness is the last breath of a broken ego, RAF. The convulsion of a soul that refuses to ascend, and fixation, the frantic hold on something beyond control. These behaviors are not aberrations, but rather signs of the gap between complacency and potential. What is seen is not a loss of balance. It reveals how delicate it was in the beginning. If your heart is overflowing with God's blessings, now is the moment to express that love by clicking the super thank you button and donating $20 or more. You are not just supporting this platform. You are sowing seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your contribution reflects God's riches, a present that resonates beyond what you can see. Step into your mission. Be a receptacle for His grace. Give with trust and see His kingdom grow through you. You were meant for more. Brilliance does not create gloom. It shows what was previously hidden under the surface. The strength of their reaction is determined not by the act itself, but by the breakdown of their carefully crafted facade. Observe those who recoil in victory, those who split as another rises. Their downfall is not about what they have accomplished, but about the dismantling of the reasons that have held them stuck. A win, a change, a show of defiance against stagnation. These are not just personal milestones. They are vibrations in the frail worlds of folks who have constructed their identities upon limitations. The unraveling is not a burden to bear, but rather the essential precursor to transformation. A spark makes no apologies for the conflagration. It just sparks it. Genuine. This is not a developed feature, but rather a force beyond the scope of permission. An unrestrained frequency that refuses to be hushed. It doesn't negotiate its existence. It cuts through artificiality with the accuracy of an unstoppable stream. This sheer intensity disturbs individuals who cling to familiarity, those who seek comfort in well-maintained illusions. The goal is not to placate, but to awaken, to cut through facade and reveal the underlying fissures underneath. Truth's strength is not derived from refining, but from its raw, uncompromising essence, which requires confrontation. The uneasiness it causes is not coincidental. The friction signifies the start of transformation. Growth isn't a passive process. It's a struggle. And pain is just the first blow. Behold, I am doing something new, and it is emerging. Do you not sense it? Isaiah 4319. Change doesn't whisper. It roars. It does not await an invitation. It also doesn't tread lightly on familiar territory. It comes like a wildfire, like a torrent washing away the old and bringing everything concealed into the light. And others who have formed their lives on predictability and safety, they are the ones that feel it first. People dread what they cannot control. They dread what compels them to see, adjust, and move. And when someone refuses to be little or blend in, he refuses to shrink for the benefit of others. That presence alone causes a commotion. It is not incorrect, but it serves as a reminder that you are not supposed to go undetected. The weight of your existence, the intensity of your truth, disrupts not just you, but everyone around you. Your growth and development. It's not a private affair. It produces a shockwave. Some will rise beside it. Others will oppose it. However, you are not concerned about their opposition. Let them push back. Allow them to critique. Allow them to pervert your metamorphosis into something uncomfortable. They are battling someone other than you. It is what your presence compels them to face. Change makes no apologies for being. It does not soften to an acceptable consistency. Neither should you. Let the old foundations shake. Allow the illusions to fracture. Allow those who cannot tolerate the truth to drift away. You did not come to be accepted. You came to change the earth underneath them. They are not responsible for the turmoil they create. It is the emerging of previously concealed cracks. Wherever they go, homeostasis is shattered. The very act of going onward imposes an implicit reckoning on individuals who have fought their own progress. A step was taken. An objective was attained. A moment of remorseful delight. It is enough to shake the foundations of someone else's carefully crafted world. What explodes is not just irritation, but an interior struggle between comfort and possibilities. Bitterness is the final shelter for people who refuse to climb resentful. The hopeless resistance to evidence that change is not a faraway myth, but an ever-present option. Consider those who lash out when faced with another's success. Their words function as reflexes rather than weapons. The frantic flapping of identities is based on stagnation. They are not reacting to a person, but to the dissolution of the illusions that have long kept them from self-awareness. They are not mourning a loss, but rather the end of their justifications. The unexpected understanding that what they had considered as unattainable was always within grasp. Let them respond. Allow them to unravel. Their pain is not indicative of wrongdoing. It is the clash of reality and long-standing denial. The opposition encountered along the route is not a discouragement, but rather a signal, evidence that the path ahead is the only one worth taking. The rain fell, streams surged, and winds blew and battered against the house. It did not, however, topple since it was built on solid rock. Matthew 725. There are two types of individuals in the world: those who are unable to withstand the storm, and the ones who become the storm, those who disperse when the winds increase, and others who bury their feet so deeply in the earth that nothing disturbs them. You weren't meant to flow with the tide and be thrown by every passing wave of opposition. You were made differently. You are the one who stands while others develop. Resistance does not mean rejection. It is recognition. Nobody argues over trivial issues. Do you believe the opponent is wasting his time on the weak? Do you suppose fights arise against persons who offer no threat? Number opposition constitutes a proclamation. The world confirms that you are here, that you have walked into something huge and unmistakable. And those who live in terror, those who have built their lives on shifting sands, can sense it. They are well aware of this. You see, when a home is constructed on solid rock, the storm does not damage it. It demonstrates its strength. And when you have a solid basis, you don't flinch. Allow the wind to roar while the detractors howl. Let the skeptics assemble. Their words. There's nothing except noise in the background. At most, their strikes serve as a diversion. You were not put here for comfort. You were sent here to be tested, strengthened, and proved. The waves that shock others will only strengthen you. Because whereas others are swept away by every little setback, resistance, or word shouted against them, you stand. You refuse to shrink. You refuse to be swayed. The storm was intended to destroy you. It will only announce you. You're here for a purpose. If you sense the call, respond by clicking the join button. You have access to special information, in-depth insights, and a strong community willing to join you on your adventure. This is not just a membership. It is an awakening, an opportunity to completely embody your divine destiny and seize the path destined for you. Do not wait. Step ahead. Join the selected. You see, the world does not confront what it does not fear. When you accepted your calling and chose to grow rather than shrink, you became a problem for others who are unable to confront their own mirror. So they lash out. They are resistant. They want to drag you back down because your very existence reminds them of everything they never became. However, you are not concerned about their opposition. Their war is not yours. Let them rage. Let them plan. Allow them to try to twist the tail. They do not have power over your fate. What they don't realize is that this isn't survival. This is domination. You aren't just suffering the storm. You're standing in the middle of it, unshaken, while it swirls around you. Those who are weak want peace, the lack of conflict. However, those who are strong recognize that genuine mastery is found in being calm in the midst of turmoil. Those who lack faith see a closed door as a failure. However, those who comprehend purpose recognize that every shut gate is only a redirection towards something higher. Opposition does not deter the chosen. It only refines them. If you were unimportant, there would be no storm. If you were simply another passerby, there would be no opposition. But here you are, and everything that comes at you is not intended to break you. It is intended to show how obstinate you are. Unbothered, fearless, and unaffected. The storm didn't come to destroy you. It came to announce you. Some do not walk away. They linger. Their presence has not yet been seen. It remains on the outskirts. A quiet recognition of an unresolved relationship. They watch not out of adoration or interest, but out of an uncontrollable want. They try to hide, but their deeds betray them. Their stare is one of inquiry rather than enjoyment. They measure, dissect, and hunt for an explanation that will always escape them. They are not looking to observe. They want to cling on to something they can't comprehend. Their presence does not cast a shadow on development. It's evidence of it. Those who want to disconnect but fail. Those who deny and then return are not free. They are obsessed with themselves rather than the person they are watching. They are unable to escape the vacuum. The contrast between showing their and ignoring their every behavior. Each mute witness is a symbol rather than a burden. A reminder that genuine effect is not transitory. That presence persists beyond sight. Allow them to stay in the distance. Allow them to seek without discovering. The light is not confined. It is the one immersed in its radiance. And you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 832. A lighthouse does not seek permission to shine. It does not dim automatically for ships that like darkness. It stands still, cut through the murk, whether the world embraces its light or not. You are the light. This is why they resist. People do not fight against something that does not challenge them. They do not get enraged about what does not expose them. They do not detest you. It is the mirror you create. You show them what they might have become and what they should have accomplished, what they still refuse to confront. And in exchange, they will distort your power into something harmful. They'll label you arrogant, tough, and rebellious because they can't control what they can't threaten. However, you are not concerned about their judgment. You have no responsibility for their misery. You are not accountable for making yourself tiny enough to fit under their constraints. Allow them to resist. Let them twist. Let them fling stones. They aren't fighting against you. They're battling against the truth. Your presence compels them to face. The world has always dreaded those who are resolute. Look across history. Every time someone refused to be persuaded, kneel, or be quiet, the audience chanted for their demise. Not because they were incorrect, but because their very existence undermined the flimsy illusions on which others had based their lives. Conviction disturbs those who live in compromise. It challenges them to confront their own lack of determination, reluctance, and self-betrayal. And instead of evolving, Instead of rising and embracing their own power, they attack the one who reminds them of it. You are not the villain in this narrative. You are the mirror that they cannot break. They will attempt to redefine you and depict you as the issue, turning your bravery into resistance. But they don't grasp this. You don't need their approval. You do not want their approval. And you will not give up your authority to make them comfortable. Allow them to misinterpret you. Let them ridicule. Let them attempt to pull you down. Their war is not against you. It's inside themselves. The selected ones were never accepted by the majority. People who are afraid of change have never accepted them. This is why you stand apart. This is why you're opposed. That is why they feel compelled to oppose you. Because they see something in you that they can't control. And anything they cannot control, they must criticize. So be still. Be strong. Be unmovable. You don't shrink. You don't waver. You do not explain yourself to people who are unwilling to listen. They'll put you to the test. They'll push. They'll attempt to make you question. But you are not designed to bend. You are designed to stand. And long after their voices have faded, you will be around long after their judgment has turned to dust. Empathy is not the same as surrender. And comprehension does not necessitate submission. Strength does not seek permission. It does not shrink to accommodate the frail expectations of people who are unprepared to confront it. Their issue is not yours to resolve. They conceal wounds with accusations, a layer of fear and animosity, seeking to provoke and transfer the weight of their own agony. But no amount of deception changes the truth. There is no responsibility to bend. There's no need to sacrifice ethics for comfort. Let them misunderstand. Let them rage. Allow them to fling their projections like stones at an immovable object. The storm they cause is not your problem. Stand still. Walk ahead, untouched by the ruins of their denial. They alone must shoulder the weight of their war. While they dissolve in the pandemonium, they refuse to flee. Another emerges, unafraid, unbroken, and beyond grasp. Resentment is a fire that eats its own fuel. Those who obsess on failure and wait for it with bated breath just end up sinking deeper into their own pit of despair. Their words, plans, and unwavering stare do not undermine the basis they loathe. They merely degrade their own power, which is not something to be taken from others. It cannot be sapped via jealousy. It is a power that cannot be taken, but rather nurtured alongside them. The more they cling at the illusion of control, the more they unravel, the more they get entangled in the energy they emit. They misinterpret consequence for misfortune, unable to comprehend the unavoidable cycle they set in motion. No retribution is necessary. No words, no action. Only waiting for the weight of their own determination will allow them to fully recover. The steps intended to trip another person become fractures in their own path. Protection does not imply retreat. It is about precision. The world is full with folks who want to grab on, dream, and disturb. However, mastery refers to the art of movement. Without a collision, presence serves as a protective barrier. Boundaries are rules, and energy yields to those who command. There is no need to protect what is untouchable. No authorization is granted. No space is provided. Those who confuse accessibility for control will have nothing to grasp. Freedom of movement. Being unburdened is not an accident. It's by design. There are people who wander through life entangled in invisible bonds, bearing the burden of energies they never chose. But those who grasp the essence of power refuse to be weighted down. What isn't serving is released. What is not lying gets trimmed away. Those who clutch and grab for something that was never theirs to possess are the ones who fail. However, there is no load, shackles, or weight heavy enough to halt the irresistible. It is impossible to break what cannot be controlled. Moving ahead is not a question. It is a certainty. Unhindered, undiminished, untouchable. Your presence is noticeable. It bends the very air around it, bringing whatever is buried to the surface. The weight of your mission cannot be overlooked. It cannot exist without effect. There will be others who feel it, comprehend it without words, and step aside in quiet acknowledgement. Others will resist and fight back with all their strength, attempting to diminish what they cannot define. This is not evidence of failure, but rather magnitude. The energy that rises against you is an accurate reflection of your effect. Those who stroll without purpose go undetected, unaffected by friction. However, those who challenge the very fabric of reality will always face hostility. Trials are not indicators of tragedy, but of refining. The pressure that surrounds you does not occur by chance. It is the last stage before metamorphosis. Those who abandon, the betrayals that emerge, the unexpected breakdowns of what was previously stable. These are not penalties. Rather, cleansing is the weight that threatens to crush you, is the same power that solidifies that which is destructible. What remains standing after the fire is not fragile, not breakable. It is absolute. Every ascent is preceded with opposition. Every forward movement generates forces that strive to keep it in place. But there's no hesitancy, no breakdown, no retreat. The velocity does not halt for uncertainty, nor does it bend for those who are unable to bear it. A presence that causes the world to change will always elicit responses. Those who rage, distort reality, and try to quiet what cannot be erased. They are not hurdles. They're evidence. If there was no force in what you carried, the world would not resist. With such vigor, those who were designed for comfort, ease, and complacency can never grasp this road. They are not disruptive. They are not provocative. They do not undermine the illusion. But you were never intended to be unseen. There is no begging or seeking permission. There's just movement. Allow them to resist. Let them try to confine what cannot be contained. Their astonishment, wrath, and denial are only affirmations. Those who go forth do not wait for approval. They make no apologies for their existence. The earth underneath them is not unchanged. It trembles. It cracks. It shows what was always intended to be undone.